and more importantly, how you can use that to kind of improve your meetings. We also do on Thursdays the 5Q breakdown. And so we don't have the Friday calls anymore. Instead, what we do is on Thursday, we email you something to work on. And in this Thursday's breakdown, we listened to a really small snippet. I think it was only about a minute and a half of an advisor, the mistake that he made, and then the save, and how you can use that, and what you can learn from that. And again, we always encourage people, don't just take these 5Q breakdowns and listen to it and then file it away. I mean, I think the thing is only about 10 minutes long. But the goal is for you to listen to that 10 minutes and then spend 10 or 15 minutes on your own practicing what we learned there and how to improve your meeting. Because if we can make every meeting a little bit better, we're that much closer to where we want to be, which is closing everybody that comes into our office. So years ago, there was a comedian by the name of Bernie Mac. And he had a TV show, and so this is his TV family. That's his TV wife and his 3 TV kids. And the premise of the show was that he was a successful comedian in Los Angeles, but he ends up being a father to 3 kids kind of unexpectedly when his sister passes away. And so in one episode, he realizes that the house that he's in is too small, so he calls a contractor to come and talk to him about adding on to his house. And after the contractor kind of tours the house, they get ready to sit down and talk numbers, and the contractor says, Mr. Mack, if you're like anybody else that I've done work for over the years, and I've done a lot of work for a lot of people, I'm guessing that you're looking for 3 things. And so you want somebody who's going to do the work fast, you want somebody who's going to do the work good, and you want somebody who's going to do the work cheap. And Bernie says, yeah, that's exactly what I'm looking for. Where do I sign? And the guy says, whoa, pick 2. What? Pick 2. See, if you want it fast and you want it good, well, it ain't going to come cheap. And if you want it good and you want it cheap, it ain't going to be fast. And if you want it cheap and fast, it ain't going to be good. Pick 2. See that thing, fast, good, and cheap? It doesn't exist. All you get is 2. And the reason I bring that up is, as advisors, we have a picture of the perfect client. Somebody with money, he doesn't have an advisor, and he's got to do something right now. Can't wait. Somebody with money, no advisor, got to do something right now. But if you did any marketing over the year of 2016, the last year, you know that when people come in, and I mean any marketing, even eye to eye, these people, they only have 2. Meaning, if you get somebody with money and no advisor, a successful do-it-yourselfer, somebody with money and no advisor, do they have to do anything right now? No. They're just there to look at the universe of ideas. They don't have to do anything. If you get somebody with no advisor who's hot and bothered to do something right now, well, inevitably, you know, we've all had these people, they turn out to have no money. And if you have somebody who wants to do something right now and they have money, well, they've already got an advisor in their life. See that thing with the guy with money and no advisor who has to do something right now? That doesn't exist. Although I take that back, because in our industry, it's not true that he doesn't exist. There is actually somebody that fits that bill. And who that would be is the guy with the 401k. See, he has money because he's been socking it away over the last 20, 30 years in his 401k. He's got $300,000, $400,000 in that account. And he doesn't have an advisor because all he ever did was just put money in his 401k. He didn't need an advisor. And he has to do something with it right now because he's getting ready to leave the job or he's getting ready to retire, so he's got to move that money now. So he's got money, he's got no advisor, and he's got to do something right now. In many ways, that's the perfect client. That's the easiest guy in the world to sell. So the question I always ask people is, if the guy exists, and he does, why don't we just work with him? Why do we ever bother meeting with anybody else? And why? Why do we bother meeting with other people? Why are we forced to have to go out and work with those people that really only fit 2 of the 3 criteria? It's because that guy's a 4-leaf clover. I mean, he's out there, but he's a rarity. He's not the rule. He's the exception to the rule. See, the vast majority of people that you're going to ever meet with only fit 2 out of those 3 criteria. The one that fits all of those criteria, he's a 4-leaf clover. And in this case, if you were wondering what the exact definition was for luck of the Irish, it's 10,000 to 1. There's only one 4-leaf clover in 10,000. And in reality, there's only one guy like that in 10,000. So the odds of meeting that guy are exceedingly rare. And if you wanted to meet him, how many mail pieces do you have to send out just to find one? 10,000, right? And now here's the good news. If you send out those 10,000, that one guy, he will respond to your mail piece because he's got to do something now, right? You caught him at the right place at the right time. If you send out 10,000 mail pieces, chances are you will find that one. And he will come into your office. And you will close him because he's got no advisor. He's got to do something right now. So if you send out 10,000 mail pieces, you'll find that one and you'll close that one. The problem with it is that only pays for the marketing. Closing that one only pays for the 10,000 pieces so that you can go ahead and recoup your costs and do it all over again. So you end up on this marketing hamster wheel where you spend the money to send out 10,000 pieces, you get the one guy to come in, you close him, that pays for the marketing so that you can do it all over again, and it's this round and round and round hamster wheel of marketing. And we all know of organizations that encourage you to do that. So if there's anyone listening from the revolution, you know who I'm talking about. They tell you just market every month, send out piece after piece after piece. You'll get some people to come in who are the perfect client, who are easy to close. But again, you end up on this marketing hamster wheel. See, only the ability to close tire kickers and plate lickers can solve your problem. Only the ability to close tire kickers and plate lickers can solve your problem. So look again at the perfect client. Again, there are literally only 1 in 10,000 that fit that description. The rest are what I would call 2 out of 3s. They only fit 2 out of the 3 criteria. So let's just take out people with no money. Let's take them out of the equation for the time being. And that's the great thing about the eye-to-eye. The guarantee is the people that you'll meet with will have money. Maybe not all of them, but as a group, they'll have at least $1 million worth of assets. But if we took out all the people with no money, and just for argument's sake, let's say that's a full half of the people that are out there. They don't have money. So if you sent out 10,000 pieces and we took out the half that didn't have money, what are we down to? How many are we left with? 5,000, right? We're left with a pool of 5,000 people from which to work. If only there was a way, if only there was this thing that could close people who only fit 2 out of the 3 criteria, well, that would even solve our marketing problems because we'd have 5,000 people from which to pull from. And guys, that's what the 21-point checklist is. It's a way to close those people that only fit 2 out of the 3 criteria. Those tire kickers, those plate lickers, that's what this is. It's a way to close those people. And if we could use this the right way, Why, then we could solve all those people that we could close all those people that only fit 2 out of the 3 criteria, leaving us 5,000 from which to work, and that would even solve our marketing problems. But to do that, anybody who's been working at the system and who's been using the 21-point checklist for a while knows that, it's not a magic pill. It's something that you have to work at to learn. It's something that takes a little bit of ability to use. And the only way to hone and sharpen that ability is to tape your meetings. Reviewing a taped meeting is the only way to get better and to get closer to making every tire kicker and plate licker, or everybody that only fits 2 out of the 3 criteria, a client. The only way you can get good at that, the only way you can improve and kind of hone that ability, is to tape your meetings and then send them to us so that we can review them. It's the only way to see the mistakes that you're making. It's the only way to hold yourself accountable to doing the 21-point checklist the right way, and it's the only way to get better. See, if you don't tape your meetings, the likelihood that you're going to do the 21 the right way is kind of slim. You're not going to be able to correct any of your mistakes, and you won't get better. So you have to tape these meetings. We talked about that last week, and last week we even looked at the website where if you're a little bit afraid of asking people to tape, there's an audio on the website asking to record an in-depth look there at the bottom highlighted, where you can go and listen and learn how to get literally 95% of the people to agree to tape their meeting. And that 5% that doesn't allow it, that's fine. We're just recording to learn from it. And it helps with compliance as well. But it's easy to ask. So don't not tape because you're a little bit afraid to ask. If you go and you listen to that 9-minute recording, that'll tell you everything you need to know and walk you through how to ask so that 95% of the people say yes. And then when they say yes, like we talked about last week, get it on tape that they approved you to tape it. Just say something like, I really appreciate you allowing me to tape this, so let's go ahead and get started. Because the only alternative to learning how to close those people who only fit 2 out of the 3 criteria is the hamster wheel. I mean, if you don't learn how to do this, if you don't embrace this and you don't get good at it, your only other choice is the hamster wheel. Sending out 10,000 pieces, looking for the one guy, and closing him so you can get enough money to do it all over again. So learn how to get good at the 21, and the only way to do that is to tape your meeting and then send them in to Mike or myself so that we can listen alongside you and tell you what it is you're doing wrong and how to correct that mistake. Okay, so I can't stress enough the importance of taping these meetings. All right, so I want to show you an image. And I'm sure everybody on the call has seen this at some point or another. I'd be surprised if there was anybody who hadn't seen this. So look at the image, and if you've seen it before, and I'm sure that's the majority of you, you know that it's actually 2 images. So when people see it, overwhelmingly, the thing that they see first is an old woman. Okay, so look to see if you can find the old woman. So here's her nose, right? And here's her eye, and here's her other eyelash, and here's her mouth right here. And there's her chin. So we all see the old woman, right? There's her nose, there's her mouth, there's her eye, there's her chin. We all see the old woman. But if you've seen this before, you also know there's also a young woman there. And so the young woman, she's kind of looking away from us. And so the young woman, this is her nose, this is her eyelash, this is her cheek and chin, and she's wearing kind of a choker necklace on her neck. That's kind of a choker necklace, and this becomes her ear. So the young woman, that's her nose, her eyelash, her chin, her neck. She's wearing kind of a choker necklace. That's her ear. And when you finally see the young woman, it's impossible to unsee it. You always know that it's there. You see the old woman. You still see the old woman. It's not like you don't see the old woman anymore, but you also know there's a young woman there, and it's not like the next time somebody shows you the picture, you're surprised that there's an old woman and a young woman. Once you've seen it, you know that the young woman's there, and you can't forget that. Now, when people come on for the first time to 5Q, so they've been out to the training class, the next step is for them to kind of learn the 21-point checklist software, and I walk them through how to use the software, but I always ask this question when they first come on board and we're walking through the 21-point checklist software. And the question that I ask is, what do you want from a 21-point checklist meeting? I mean, what's the purpose of it? What are we trying to do when we go through the 21-point checklist with a client? And an answer that I get a lot of the time is, well, I mean, it's obvious. You want another meeting. You want them to trust you. You want them to be upset with their situation, and you want them to go to another meeting to see what you have to offer. And that's not exactly right. If you've been doing this for a while, you know, yeah, it's true, we do want another meeting, but that's not the real reason that we go through the 21-point checklist with people. See, there's a difference between the reward for a benchmark and the benchmark itself. Let me say that again. There's a difference between the reward for a benchmark and the benchmark itself. So here's an example of that. If you ever saw the movie Moneyball, and I've talked about it before, the epiphany that the Oakland A's management, so the movie's about a baseball team that's constantly losing. It's a real true story. It's a real life team, the Oakland A's. The epiphany that they had is that, you know, there's a difference between the benchmark and the reward for the benchmark. Because the conversation that they had went something like this. They're all sitting around a table, all of the Oakland A's management, and they're trying to turn this ship around, and so they ask themselves, well, what are we trying to do here? And it was obvious. Somebody says, well, we're trying to win baseball games. But the epiphany that they had is, that's not exactly true. I mean, yeah, we want to win baseball games, but how? How do you win baseball games? Well, you score more runs than the other guy. Okay, well, how do you score runs? Well, you get people on the bases, and then you move them around the base pads. Ah, that's the light bulb that went off. We shouldn't be looking for guys that can hit home runs. I mean, hey, we can't afford them, but we shouldn't even be looking for that. What we should be looking for are guys that walk a lot. If the goal is to get people on base and move them around the base pads, then we should be looking for guys who walk a lot. We should be looking for guys who steal a lot of bases. We should be looking for guys who can bunt, who get a lot of sacrifice bunts. We should be looking for guys who maybe don't hit it out of the park, but they hit a lot of sacrifice flies, or they hit a lot of singles. See, not only can we afford those people, but those are the guys that you win with. Why? Because they put people on base, and then they move them around the base pads. See, that's the benchmark. The benchmark is, how many people do we get on base? And how many people do we move from one base to another? Winning games, that's the reward for getting that done. Winning games, that's not the benchmark. That's the reward for getting people on the bases and moving them around the base pads. So we have to be really clear about what the benchmark is, because that's how we have success. So what I want to do right now is I want to listen to a couple of tapes. Okay, so we're going to play a tape. This one's about the first tape that we're going to listen to. We're just going to listen to a snippet of it. It's about 1.5 minutes long. And I want you to listen to the tape, and then I want you to kind of tell me, what did he do well with the recording? So he's going to do a lot of things wrong, but I don't want you to focus on the things that he does wrong. I want you to focus on the thing that he does well, because he does do something well here. And I want to see if you can pick up on what it is that he does well. Now he's going to talk about the risk-reward scatter plot. And this is an old tape. He didn't have the benefit of the tutorials like you guys do. So I'm going to do a little commercial for the tutorials here. Make sure you guys are listening to the tutorials because that's how you're going to learn to do it right. And not just learn to do it right, but just have it burned into your brain how to do it right so that you can't do it wrong. So I'll tell you up front, he doesn't cover the risk-reward scatter plot the right way. That's something that he's doing wrong. But again, I don't want you to focus on what he's doing wrong. I want you to focus on what he's doing right. Okay? So let me play this for you. And I want you to listen to it. And I want you to focus and tell me, what is it that he's doing right? So I'm just going to play it all the way through. Here we go.
We did here, this is a graph, all right? There's 4 quadrants: low risk, low reward, low risk, high reward, high risk, low reward, high risk, high reward. This is the S&P 500 index, okay? So this is what you would have if you had an overall account with a 5% turnover and not a 47% turnover. And all of your mutual funds, your equity-based funds are right there. Are most of your funds below average or above average?
Well, they appear to be below.
Yes. Okay, now you've got a couple. You've got one here that's right on the line, okay? And you've got 2 here. So 3 of your funds are a little bit above average, but the vast majority of your funds are underperforming the market, or underperforming just an index fund, all right? Were you aware of that?
No.
It didn't show you something like this before? No. Okay. Then you have a couple bond funds as well. These are your equity portfolios, okay, and these are your bond funds. Are your bond funds below average or above average?
Obviously below.
Below average, okay. All right, and were you aware of that?
No.
Okay. Vicki?
No.
Okay. Again, you have preferred funds.
Okay, so he covered the risk-reward scatter plot. Now I made a mistake here and I didn't bring up the question, so Missy, you're going to have to help me. But what did he do well? What did he do well? Don't focus on what he did wrong. What did he do well? Any ideas? Anybody typing anything in?
Yeah, they got ask questions, good explaining, no idea. I'll point it out,
Okay.
shortcoming of results.
Oh, okay. Now that's good. So, yeah, I mean, it's only 1.5 minutes long, and if you've watched the tutorial, you know it takes a lot longer than that to go through the risk-reward scatter plot. So, I mean, there's a lot of things he did wrong, and we could find a lot of things that he did wrong and that he could do better. But I would say he did do one thing well. He did a lot of explaining, probably more explaining than he should have done, but he did get him to say, yeah, these are not performing very well. These aren't doing well. So listen again, you'll see they say, yeah, I mean, this isn't what I expected. I mean, it's not, yeah, they're underperforming. Let me see if I can back this up a little bit. And let's see if we can, let's try.
No, probably not, okay? So what that translates to is you have some risk-reward concerns in your overall portfolio, all right? And what we did here, this is a graph, all right? There's 4 quadrants: low risk, low reward, low risk, high reward, high risk, low reward, high risk, high reward. This is the S&P 500 index, okay? So this is what you would have if you had an overall account with a 5% turnover and not a 47% turnover. And all of your mutual funds, your equity-based funds are right there. Are most of your funds below average or above average?
Well, they appear to be below.
Yes. Okay, now you've got...
So they said their funds are above average or below average, and the guy says, well, they appear to be below.
A couple. You've got one here that's right on the line, okay? And you've got 2 here. So 3 of your funds are a little bit above average, but the vast majority of your funds are underperforming the market, or underperforming just an index fund, all right? Were you aware of that?
No.
It didn't show you something like this before?
No.
Okay.
Okay, now he's going to go and explain the bond funds. So he's explaining to them that the vast majority are underperforming the market.
Then you have a couple bond funds as well. These are your equity portfolios. Okay, and these are your bond funds. Are your bond funds below average or above average?
Always leave below.
Below average. Okay.
Are your bond funds above average or below average? And the guy says, well, obviously they're below.
All right, and were you aware of that? Okay, Vicki? Okay. Again, you have preferred.
Okay, now he's going to move on to the next topic. So while there are a lot of things he could have done better, the one thing that he did do well is he got them to acknowledge that our investments are below average. Okay, so he did a good job of getting them to acknowledge that their investments were below average. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to show you another, we want to listen to another tape here. Okay, so I'm going to go and queue up this other tape. And he's going to be talking about the risk-reward scatter plot as well. And these tapes were done about the same time, so he didn't have the tutorials either. He's not going to cover it right either. In fact, he's going to cover it much the same way that you just heard. And again, he's going to do something well. He's going to do a lot of things wrong, but I don't want you to listen to what he's doing wrong. I want you to pick out what it is that he's doing right. So let me cue this up, and let's see what it is that he's doing right.
Thanks for coming in. Again, like I mentioned earlier today, what we're going to do is we're just going to go over this information that you've provided us. And this is a 80-page report that's customized for you folks. Wow. So 500 options. Did you want my recommendations? Yeah. So here are a few of the investments that you have. A couple American funds, and then also they're all American funds. Okay. And so
this tape's a little bit longer. It's about 4 minutes long, but I just want you to listen to what he does well. He's going to do some things wrong. Don't worry about that. I want you to listen to what he did well.
What this is, have you ever seen something like this? This risk-reward scatter plot? Never did. What this is just going back 3 years, and these are 4 different quadrants. Okay, and this benchmark is the S&P 500. So they're just, you know, have you ever heard the term, the saying that if you can beat the S&P 500, you're doing great?
Oh, yeah, I like to see that when the arrows are up on the news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you can just try to keep up with the Standard & Poor's 500, that's a really good benchmark. That's letting you know that whoever's managing your money is doing a good job. So the way that this works is 4 quadrants. If you can see here, what does this say, Rich? I see it. Oh, low risk, low reward. And if we move to the right, we move towards what? Reverse. Yep. So we're in money. High risk, low reward. So when we go,
see how he covered it much the same as the other guy. So here we go. Listen to what he does well.
So this way, all we're doing on this scatter plot, all we're doing is increasing our risk. When we go this way, we go from low reward to what? High reward. Yep. So we're getting more money for the amount of risk. So real simply, if we're trying to stay on this line, we want to be as close to it as possible. Do you see where this guy is? Mm-hmm. So we're in the low risk, low reward, right? So how do we get this guy on this line? If we take more risk, then we should get what for that? Higher reward. Higher reward. So basically, we want to be right along that line and match the risk and reward. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So this is doing great. This guy right here, this one's a little bit off. And so we're just, looks like we're taking a little bit more risk than we're receiving for the reward.
Us, or this just imaginary?
Oh no, this is yours.
Oh, that's yours.
This is you. This is you.
Okay.
Nothing hypothetical here.
Okay.
Oh, this is you guys. So one of your mutual funds is So those two were the American Funds Capital Income and American Funds Growth Fund. This is a bond fund. So this is the American Funds Capital.
So like the other advisor, he showed him the equity funds. Now he's going to show him the bond funds.
Capital World Bond Fund. So now, same 3 years. So we're just looking back the last 3 years. And what we're using is Barclays aggregate bond. So this is the Barclays now, bond. Okay, so it's not the S&P 500. So it's a bond benchmark. So we've only got one. So what quadrant are we in?
High.
High what?
Risk.
And
Low
low
reward.
reward. Okay. So
We're over there.
So the idea is here, and where do we want to be along this line? So the idea is we're taking way too much
Risk.
Yeah, because we're not getting much.
Reward.
Yeah,
That's the bond?
this is the bond.
Okay.
So just to give you an idea,
Yeah.
I mean, you've never seen this before.
Mm-mm.
Why do you think no one's ever showed you this?
They don't want us to know it.
And why wouldn't they want you to know it?
Right.
I mean, if you knew it, would you?
You'd move it.
You'd move it. So the idea is, and I wonder why they're not giving you this information to move it for your benefit. I mean, why would you think they're not?
I don't know.
Do you think they're more concerned about your situation? Or
Obviously not.
Yeah, because these companies, all these financial companies.
So what was the difference? They both covered it in very much the same way. They both did too much explaining. They both covered it wrong, but they both did a couple things well. The first guy did a good job of getting them to say, yeah, these are underperforming. What did this guy do well?
Well, we're getting, I'll give you what they're saying, okay? So he's letting them finish the point he's making. He's asking if they've ever been shown this by the guy, got them to realize the risk-reward issues of their portfolio. Questions have to make them making the points and asking why their advisor never, there we go. So Craig says questions to have them making the points and asking why their advisor never showed them. Put the blame on their guy, Michael says. Second guy involved, okay, so those guys got it. So.
Yep, that's exactly right. See, it's not that the first guy did a bad job. He did I think he went into the meeting with the idea that he wanted them to understand that their investments were risky, that they were underperforming. And because he went in with this thought that I'm going to get them to see that their investments are risky, he succeeded in doing that. And if he was to listen to his tape and critique it with me, he would say, I did that. I got them to admit that their investments were underperforming. Now, I could have asked more questions. I understand that. I could have gotten on their side more. I understand that. I guess I could have done some things better. I understand that. But I did get them to acknowledge that their investments were underperforming.
And that they were not happy.
And that they were not happy. So that should count as a success. Well, I guess if that's what you were trying to do, yeah, then that was a success. It's just that the other guy decided that I'm going to go in there and I'm going to get them to see that their advisor never went over this because he wanted to make more money for himself. He didn't really care about them. And because he went in with that mindset, he asked a few extra questions. And he got them to say, yeah, we're underperforming, and no, we never saw anything like this, and not just that we hadn't seen it before, because I think the other guy got him to say they hadn't seen it before. But not only have we not seen it before, but why didn't they show us? I don't know. I guess they didn't want us to see it. Why? Well, I don't know, which is the answer that you're going to get most often. And then he takes them through, well, I mean, if you saw it, would you have bought it? No. So who was he really looking out for? He wasn't looking out for us. And maybe he could have done that better, but do you see the difference? See, here's the thing. Clients know when they come in to see us, because if they're coming in from the eye to eye, they're coming in for a portfolio review, right? And what do they think a portfolio review is? Well, I imagine they think you're going to look at my portfolio and tell us what you see. And they know that when we tell them what we see, that we're probably going to show them a picture that's unflattering. Now, they don't know that we're going to show them a literal picture in the risk-reward scatter plot, but they probably think we're going to show them some sort of figurative picture that we're going to kind of help them paint this picture in their mind that's kind of unflattering about what they're doing. See, they expect us to show them an old lady. And when we show them this image, they see an old lady. They thought we were going to show them an old lady, and when they see it, they're like, yep, an old lady. And it's okay that they see the old lady. And it's even desirable that they see the old lady. But here's the thing. It's our job to make sure that when they walk out of that meeting, that they see the young lady. Do they see the old lady? That's not the problem. It's our job to make sure that when they walk out of there, they also see the young lady. And when I say see the young lady, what do I really mean by that? So I've got the questions up so I can see them. What do I mean by see the young lady? So let's see. What do I mean by that? They see the old lady. They see the problem with their portfolio. What they don't see is the young lady. What's the young lady? I don't know if mine's working.
Okay, well, we got here. Okay, so we got can't unsee her, see the solution, blame the advisor, the guy's motive.
That's it. That's the young lady. They have to see that. Of course they're going to see the old lady. If you walk in and try and paint a picture of an old lady, guys, that's silly. That's silly that you would spend all this time learning these scripts, learning the 21-point checklist to do something that anybody can do with or without it. You think other advisors who don't use the 21-point checklist can't show that their prospects, that their portfolio is an old lady? That it's got problems? Of course they can do that. You don't need the 21-point checklist to do that. What you need the 21-point checklist to do is help them to see that it's not just an old lady. It's a young lady as well. See it? That's her nose. See it? That's her eyelash. See it? That's her chin. See it? That's a choker necklace on her neck. She's looking away from us. See it? That's her ear. Your job is to make sure that they see that. That they don't just see that their portfolio has problems. That they see that the problem is the advisor. He doesn't care about them. He's looking out for himself. He's not looking out for them. That's the picture that you have to make sure that they walk out seeing, as well as, or in addition to, the old lady. And when they finally see that, they get it. And they can't unsee it. They can't forget it. Sure, they realize that our portfolio has problems. They still see the old lady, but now they know there's also a young lady there too. And it's the young lady that's burned in their brain. They can't forget it. They can't unsee it, and that's why they move. Not because they can't see the old lady or you didn't do a good enough job of showing the old lady. It's because they know there's a young lady behind the old lady or as part of the old lady. They're inseparable. Him looking out for himself is the real issue. It's the real picture, and that's the picture that they have to see when they leave your office. They're going to come into your office with the ability to see the old lady, whether you do anything or not. See, the key to getting what you want out of a meeting is knowing what you want out of a meeting. If you think that what you want out of a meeting is to get them to see that their portfolio is an old lady, well, of course they'll see that. But what they won't see is the young lady, which is why they won't move. So you need to be able to articulate what you want before you step into that room. I want them to see the young lady in the picture. Otherwise, they won't be able to see it when they walk out. And then once you have that thought in your mind before the meeting, you need to step into that room for the meeting and then make it happen. You can't just want it to happen. You can't just wish it would happen. You have to make it happen. That's your job. Your job is to say, I know you see the old lady, I see it too, but you have to see the young lady. My job is to make them see the young lady. See, everyone always asks me, what are the guys who are having success? The guys that are really hitting it out of the park with 5Q, what are they doing? That's what they're doing. They're making it happen. They're making people see the young lady. See, they're not doing different marketing than you. They're doing eye to eye. They're doing outside the box. They're getting clients from their tax practice or going back to their Medicare clients. They're doing the exact same marketing that all of you are doing. It's not different marketing. They might, some of them might be doing eye to eye. Some of them might be doing outside the box. Some of them might be doing going back to their Medicare clients. See, they're doing marketing all over the board. But what they have in common is the ability to make people see the young lady. And that's what you have to develop, an ability to get people to see the young lady in the image. And the only way to do that is to tape your meetings and send them in. So understand what your job is. It's not to show them that their portfolio has problems. Yeah, it has problems. I mean, let's not, there's an old lady in the image. We all see it, right? I'm not saying you're not supposed to do that, or that if you do that, that you've done something wrong. No, I'm saying if that's all you do, you've done something wrong. You've got to get them to see that there are two images there. And our job is to make them see the second image before they leave. To ask them questions to know for a fact that they saw the second image before they leave. That's how we know that they saw the second image, because they can explain it to us. I see it. That's her nose. That's her eyelash. They're telling me that's her chin. That's a choker chain around her neck. She's looking away from us. They can explain to me the second image, and that's when I know I've done my job. If they can explain to me that there's a young old lady there, I have not done my job. I can't emphasize this enough. You need to go in there and make them see that other image. Okay?
And I'm going to jump in there, Jeff. Jeff gave another commercial for the tutorials. If you go through and listen to tutorials, the emphasis I make in those tutorials is making sure they understand the bottom line. And the bottom line is their guy had a motive not to show it to them. Even on the umbrella, even on the property casualty, even on the identity theft, we end up those scripts with, hey, you're probably wondering, why am I talking about these things? First of all, if any of these things happened, could that cause a problem to you financially? And of course, they're going to say yes, a little or a big one, a big one. And so you probably think, why am I talking about these things? Well, what kind of advisor would I be if I didn't cover these things? Again, we're using the same mentality we used with the power of attorney to get them to realize, geez, my guy isn't covering any of these things. And if Mike's a lousy advisor for not covering these things, my guy is. So even on the things that we initially had not been having them or been even bringing up or trying to have them connect the dots that their guy is the problem, on the new tutorials, you're seeing that even on those things now, we're getting them to understand their guy is the problem. The guy is the problem, the guy is the problem. If you look at all the tutorials, what's the last, if you look at all the crib sheets, what's the last thing on the crib sheet, Jeff? What's the last bullet on the crib sheet for every single one of those topics?
Yeah, why do you think you haven't seen this before? Why do you think this is happening? And that question, it's not the be-all, end-all, but it does begin the conversation so that they can start to explain to you that there's another image there, there's another problem, a bigger problem, the one that really matters. So does anybody know what this is? And Missy fixed my thing so I can see the comments. Maybe not. There was a British author. His name is Douglas Adams. He's still alive. He's written a lot of books. Many of you know probably his most popular book was Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Anyway, he said, I love deadlines. I love them. I love the whooshing noise they make as they go by. So, spoken like a true procrastinator, right? Loves deadlines, loves the noise they make as they go by. Well, there's a guy out there by the name of Tim Urban, not Tim Burton, the TV director or movie director. Tim Urban. He's a young guy. He writes a blog called Wait But Why. Generally what they do is they take like a science topic and try and make it kind of fun and easy to understand for lay people. Anyway, he was saying, you know, he procrastinates really bad. And he was convinced that procrastination is the result. Procrastinators' brains, they're just different. I mean, if you look at a procrastinator and a non-procrastinator, it has something to do with their brain and the way it's structured or their brain chemistry. Well, the great thing about today is we can, you know, take a scan of somebody's brain and look at the image and compare them side by side to see, is there really a difference? So I know we're not brain surgeons and we're not neuroscientists and, you know, we don't have a lot of experience looking at brain scans, but I want you to take a look at these scans and then hang in there with me because I think you'll find this really interesting. So here's the scan of a non-procrastinator's brain. And you'll see that he has a rational decision maker behind the wheel. And the rational decision maker, he does things that make sense. He thinks long term. He's not a child. So that's the non-procrastinator's brain. So let's look at the procrastinator's brain. Here's the procrastinator's brain, and I think you can see right away that there is in fact a difference. The procrastinator still has the rational decision maker behind the wheel, but he's also got this instant gratification monkey next to him. And so the instant gratification monkey, he only likes to do things that are easy and fun. And so if there's work to be done, but it's easy or it's fun, no problem, it gets done. It's when we have to do things that aren't easy or maybe not as much fun that the instant gratification monkey starts to take the wheel. So he'll get in there and he'll say, well, let's watch a bunch of YouTube videos on creatures from the deep sea and then go on a YouTube spiral that takes us through Richard Feynman talking about string theory and ends with us watching interviews with Justin Bieber's mom. And then we'll reorganize our to-do list, we'll check sock prices on Amazon and split up our iPhoto albums into smaller, more specific albums. And by then it'll be 2 o'clock and we have an appointment at 4:30, so it'll be too late to really start any work at that point. And that's how procrastination happens. We delay and try and do things that are, we go off on these tangents instead of getting done what we need to get done. And Tim Urban said, you know, that's me to a T. I mean, when I was in college and I would have to do term papers, this would be my plan. My plan would be, okay, well, we'll, you know, kind of ease into it and do some work here at the beginning, and then, you know, in the middle, we'll kind of kick it up a notch and do even more, and then finally at the end, we'll just kick it into high gear and really bust this thing out. But inevitably, what would happen is he said, you know, those early days would go by and I wouldn't get anything done, so the revised plan became this. And then, you know, that middle of time would just fly by with, before I knew it, it was gone and nothing had gotten done, so that ultimately the plan was this. I'd have to pull a couple all-nighters and just get something done so that I'd have something to turn in. And he said probably the only reason that got done is because of the panic monster. At some point, the panic monster shows up. And that's when it turns out that the instant gratification monkey, it's the only thing he's afraid of is the panic monster. And we all know what the panic monster is. It's that sick feeling we get when a deadline's approaching and we haven't even started. Panic monster is the only thing that can get the instant gratification monkey running for the hills and hiding so that the rational decision maker can take over the wheel and do whatever he can to at least get something done. And so the reason I bring that up is what he said, that when he wrote this blog, this probably got the most responses of anything that he'd ever written. And people would send in their own stories. They'd talk about how they procrastinated too, only they would talk about how procrastination just really ruined their life. How their life just, these stories that they would tell were just tinged with this kind of sadness and this melancholy. And he said, I had a hard time trying to understand it because, you know, the thing I wrote was just kind of this fun little look at procrastination, but these stories that people are giving me back are these stories filled with regret and just this deep kind of dark sadness that kind of pervades the whole thing. And he tried to understand why, and he said, I think I know why. It's because there's really two kinds of procrastination. There's short-term procrastination, where there's procrastination with deadlines, that's short-term, and then there's long-term procrastination. Doesn't really have a deadline. So if you say, well, I'm going to learn how to play the piano, well, that doesn't really have a deadline. Or I'm going to be a better father, that doesn't really have a deadline. And those are the kinds of things that people would describe as causing these feelings of regret and sadness throughout their life. And so what this is this is actually a box for every week of a 90-year-old. So if you live to 90, there's a box there for every week of your life. And he said the challenge for us is to look at that box and ask ourselves, how many of those would we check off? How many of those would we say that we did what we needed to do? That we did what you know, was really driving us, this thing that gives us kind of meaning and purpose, the thing that we really needed to do. Would we check off? How many of those boxes would we check off? Because if you look back at your life and you see that they're all empty, well, that's sad. That's what causes the regret. That's what causes the melancholy. That's what causes the sadness. And so I show that because a lot of you went and learned all the tutorials over December. And if you did that, that's awesome, and we really appreciate it. And we understand that it's hard, and we understand that it takes time, and we understand that there are a lot of other things that you guys would probably like to be doing. But if you didn't do it, don't procrastinate. Get it done. Because the only thing that's going to make 2017 better than 2016 is the ability to close tire kickers and plate lickers. The ability to close people who only fit 2 out of the 3 criteria. And the 21-point checklist is your key to making that happen. And if you go through life saying, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it, because there's no real hard deadline, the danger is you could look back and none of these boxes would be checked. Don't let that happen to you. You're in this business. Embrace it. Be the best that you can be. Start checking off those boxes. Get on that website. Do those tutorials. Tape those meetings. Send them in. Set aside the time to review them and correct your mistakes and get better. And again, if you did that in December, that's awesome. That's great. And we appreciate that. But there's an old Chinese proverb that says, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time? Today. So get out there, and if you haven't done it, don't cry and think that your life is over. Just start doing it. Start doing it today. Start doing it this week. Don't wait anymore. Get going with this, because this is going to give you the ability to close those 2 out of 3s, which that's what you have to be able to do in today's world to really kick your practice into high gear. So when you've mastered the scripts and the motive being the most important thing, and you've done your daily practice of the most important 15 daily and getting on people's side, and you're really spending the time with the 5-minute money maker and the breakdowns, that's when you'll be able to bring on every client you want. Even if they only fit 2 out of the 3 criteria, you'll still be able to bring them on. So get out there, do those tutorials, tape those meetings, send them in, and let's make 2017 even better than 2016. Oh, before I see if Mike has anything else, remember, we're closing our office today at 2. So we're here, and ECA is gone. They have the day off for Martin Luther King Day. We're here, but only till 2 o'clock today because of an ice storm that's moving through the area. So anything else, Mike?
Nope, that is it. Great job.
All right, thanks, guys. We will talk to you soon.
Have a good week, guys.